Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the Board of Supervisors meeting of February 3rd, 2015 to order. First item on the agenda is Pledge to Allegiance. Supervisor Rutherford, will you please lead us?
Please join me in a pledge of allegiance to the flag of the greatest country on earth.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to change the order of our board meeting this morning. We have an issue in closed session that we need to handle right away. So we're going to go to item 16 first, and then, pardon? 16B first, I'm sorry. And then we will come back. We anticipate coming back somewhere around 9:30 to 10 in order to get the business done, but it's of a nature that we have to take care of it right away. So would the clerk please read item 16?
16B is closed session, public employee appointment, Authority Government Code Section 54957B1, public, it's the health officer.
Okay, any public comment on the closed session item? Seeing none, we will go ahead and recess to closed session, and should be back as soon as possible. Thank you. Okay, good morning, everyone. We're back from closed session, and we have nothing to report. First item on the agenda is oral communication, and the public may speak on any item that's not on the agenda.
Greetings to the board. I'm Paul McNall, constituent District 2. I'm here to advocate for child welfare services reform. In that reform, shared family care is a program that makes a huge difference as far as child detentions are concerned. Child detentions are one step below parental addiction. Stuff happens when children are detained. I have a long list of bruises and bumps and broken wrists and that I could bring and show to you guys. You know, something really needs to be done. Shared family care is a program that reduces detentions probably by 75%. Because what it is like in Stanislaus County, they have a little program there. It's bungalows. They keep the children with the parents under a supervised condition. That eliminates all the anguish that the children and parents go through because they're still together. I would like to see Tuolumne County adopt shared family care. Google it, please. Please, I'm really super serious about this. And I'm going to be seeing you here every 2 weeks. Talk to you later.
All right, thank you. Anyone else wish to speak?
I also have an issue with the County of Child Welfare Services. How can it be legal for the DA to represent an attorney that works for the DA's office to represent children? Shouldn't there be like a CASAS program set up here like there is in every other county to where there could be an advocate for the children, for the best interest of the children? And that's pretty much all I have to say. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Mr. York.
Today I'm really not associated with the roads. Lynn McCormick came by and wanted to make a public announcement about an upcoming event on behalf of the Tuolumne County Library Literacy Services, and that's to announce an upcoming event known as the annual Trivia Bee. The date of the event is March 14th. It's held there at the Sonora Opera Hall. It's a great time. I serve as a timekeeper for this event, and it's a great fundraiser for the Tuolumne County Library. So the social hour begins at 5 p.m., and the Trivia Bee begins at 6 p.m. It's great entertainment, just absolutely great entertainment. So, and I know I'm a poor substitute for Lynn McCormick.
And
Thank
it
you, Sue.
supports what?
What's that? I'm sorry.
And it supports.
The Tuolumne County Library Services. You betcha.
All right, thank you. Would
I
anyone
might
else?
add, that's a good deal. Everybody ought to support that. And in fact,
And you
if
have
you're
your team, right?
Pardon?
You have your team, is that correct?
We didn't participate last year, but we're reforming our ranks.
All right, sounds good. Anyone else wish to speak? Seeing no one, I will ask the clerk to please read the consent calendar.
Minutes of the meeting held January 5th and 6th, 2015. Finding a summary of ordinance numbers 3270 and 3271 were published. Approving two separate amended number twos to an agreement with W.H. Brashears, Inc. for bulk fuel and lubrication delivery services and cardlock fueling. And approving the out-of-state travel for Tracy Riggs, Deputy County Administrator, to attend the 2015 Aging in America Conference in Chicago, Illinois, March 23rd through 27th, 2015.
Okay, any public comment on the consent calendar? Bring it back to the board.
We'll move on approval on the consent calendar.
I have a first and second. All those in favor of approving the consent calendar? Aye. Opposed? None. Passes 5-0. Thank you. Item 5.
Consideration of approving a certificate of recognition for Avery Bryant for winning the Best in Show 2013 Annual Tuolumne County Arts Alliance Student Art Show.
Good morning. Can you hear me? Connie O'Connor, Executive Director of the Tuolumne County Arts Alliance. I'm here instead of, or in place of, Louise McPeters, who's very ill and couldn't be here today. But I'm here this morning on behalf of her and also for the Tuolumne County Arts Alliance, and to share just a little bit, before I introduce these two very deserving students, to share just a little bit about how this program operates. We are supported by a matching grant from the California Arts Council that is called the Artist in Residence, or Artist in Schools grant. It's a matching grant, and there are 5 schools that participate, local schools that participate in this. And for the past 3 or 4 years, Louise has been, she, as the Arts Education Director for TCAA, has been responsible for writing this grant. It's a matching grant between the schools and the Arts Alliance. And each year, there's a wonderful student art show, and this has been going on for the last 17 years. And out of that show, a best of show is awarded. And in 2013 and 14, and I'll explain the delay in being here in a minute about that, 2 very deserving young students here were awarded that special Best of Show recognition. One is Avery Bryant, who attended school at Connections Academy. And the other one is Caitlin Robbins, who attended Sonora High School. So they brought, we have their pieces of art that were selected, and I would like to personally thank the supervisors for the past few years that you have participated with us in this program and allowed us to hang these pieces of artwork in your lobby. The reason there's been this huge delay in getting here mostly was because we've moved our office twice in the last 2.5 years. The plaque went missing, and it wasn't found until the end of November of this past year. So that, having said that, I would like to have Avery and Caitlin come up, and I'm sure that if you have any questions for them, they'd be happy to
What I
answer
first
them.
would like to do is read this certificate.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you, John.
And I'll just read one of them.
Okay.
And then I'll ask the board for a motion for
Okay.
the recognition.
Great.
Avery Bryant, a junior at Somerville High Connections Academy has been awarded the winner of the Tuolumne County Celebration of the Arts in Schools Student Exhibit 2013. This annual event is sponsored by Tuolumne County Arts Alliance in partnership with the Tuolumne County Schools and has been awarding such awards over the past 20 years plus. Therefore, on behalf of the residents of Tuolumne County, the Board of Supervisors hereby congratulates and recognizes Avery Bryant for her outstanding winning art exhibit. So, bring it back to the board.
Move to approve the certificate.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Do you want to? Okay. So Avery. There she is. I wasn't sure where you were. Yeah. Pick up your.
Yeah, could we see that art?
I'm going to miss these. They've been in my office for all this time. So.
Okay. Congratulations. Thank you. That's great. We look forward to seeing that. So it's ours now, right?
It is.
All right.
At least for a little while.
I got it.
You can help hang it after a while. I brought nails and a hammer.
You get thinner there, John.
Put it in his office.
The other certificate, go ahead.
This is consideration of approving a certificate of recognition for Caitlin Robbins for winning the Best in Show for 2014 annual Tuolumne County Arts Alliance Student Art Show.
Connie, do you want to make any more statements, or you said enough?
No, that's fine. I would like to have Caitlin come up, though, and present her piece of
okay.
of
I didn't know
artwork.
she was
She's
here.
here with her family.
All right, that's great. But first, we're going to do the board's business.
I move to approve the certificate of recognition.
First and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any public comment? Seeing none, passes 5-0. Thank you.
I'll let you do that. So this is Caitlin.
Okay, let's.
John Gray.
All right, thanks. Thank you. We have it now.
That one's kind of a unique thing. That was an exercise about Van Gogh and Starry Night. So that's the Red Church with Starry Night in the background. Thank you.
Those are the type of paintings we need for our fourth floor. They're very colorful, and thank you very much, and congratulations on the award. Next item, please.
Number 7 is presentation of County Service Award to Susan Ferguero West.
All right. Who's going to be the person that's going to come up here? Oh, it's the sheriff. Okay. Okay.
I'm biting my lip here. Okay, well, come on up here, Sue. Well, we're here to, we brought Sue before you because Sue is here, has served the county of Tuolumne for 40 years. And that's quite a remarkable...
4 years?
40.
I thought you were right.
4T. Supervisor Royce, could you turn up his hearing aid, please?
Boy, paybacks.
Good thing he's an elected official, huh?
I love being sheriff.
Yes. I love being supervisor budget time.
That's okay. You know, we make a great team. So thank you. But in all honesty, we are here to supervise or to recognize Sue for 40 years of service to the citizens of Tuolumne County. In law enforcement, anybody that stays that long and has the ability to see and do what she has done has a lot of things to offer, and so we're grateful for her. We're grateful for the time that she has done for the community, but more importantly, for what she has done in the dispatch area. You know, in 40 years, we've gone from an analog to digital to 911, where when I first came in, everything was written down. Is that about right?
On a stone tablet.
I didn't say that. But I'm grateful for her for not only as an employee, but she has saved my hide many a time as a dispatcher when I was a young, foolish, because we all are, foolish deputies. I haven't met one yet that's not young and foolish, because we think that we can do whatever we can. And it is because of those dispatchers that are there directing other units and helping and letting us know who's coming and what's going on. So my hat goes off to Sue. I love her. I'm grateful for her. She's a great employee, and 40 years is a wonderful accomplishment. So, Sue, congratulations.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that it's an honor. It's been an honor and a privilege to help and serve the people of Tuolumne County and protect them in this length of time. And I have more things I want to do. Thank you.
Sue, I think you told us the last time you were up that you were 12 when you started to go to work for, or 5. Okay. I just wanted to make sure that we had that right. But thank you so much for all those years of service. It's wonderful that we had the ability to have someone like you in that department. Thank you so much.
So I want to say thank you for 40 years, too. It is a remarkable achievement. And I know that you've mentored virtually everybody in the sheriff's department over those years, including the sheriff himself. You got to stick around a while. He's still a work in progress.
He's pretty good.
I wasn't going to do that until you took a shot at my colleague over here.
See, they got my back, Sheriff. They've got my back.
He's pretty good, though.
But we know it's true.
Yeah, I just have to say that for some people, living for 40 years is a remarkable accomplishment. But to work at anything for 40 years, I wish you didn't have the one blemish on your record that the sheriff is. But other than that, we really do thank you for a wonderful 40 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Anybody else want to take a shot at
Okay. Any public comment? Thank you, Sue.
You're welcome, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, guys. Sheriff will know when to speak up or not next time.
It's called mutual support, Sheriff.
All right. Would clerk please read item number 8?
Consideration of approving appointment/reappointment of the District 3 representative and the at-large representative to the Tuolumne County Planning Commission.
Supervisor Royce, we'll go ahead and start with the District 3 representative. Do you have a...
I do have a request or recommendation, or however you want to phrase it.
Okay.
And before I announce that, I just want to say that there's a pretty impressive slate of potential candidates. I mean, there was a lot of really qualified people. In making my decision, I think some of the key drivers is the fact that we've had a pretty high turnover in the last quarter, and keeping some continuity there, I think, is important. John Latore has served as planning commissioner for how long, Bev? 8 years. No, longer than that. Lori Sylvester appointed him. it's been a while, and I think that he's done a good job. I haven't always agreed with him, but I think he makes decisions with the right intentions, and he's also a builder, so he understands the background to regulations and getting things done. And so, before I babble anymore, I'll just say that John Latore is my appointment, or reappointment.
Any other?
If that needs a second, I'll second
That
it.
certainly would need a second. If there's no other. Okay. Any public comment? Bring it back to the board for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Passes 5-0. Okay, this is an at-large appointment. It's obviously when you go through the applications, we have just a number of really good applicants, and I would like to make an appointment or a nomination for appointment and be open for other ones. But I'd like to nominate Walter Cruz for that at-large position. If many of you know that he was a past environmental health director for Tuolumne County, I think he has a good understanding of the process already, and I think he could pretty much start the ball rolling right off the bat. So that is going to be my nomination. Any other?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to nominate Bob Fulcher.
Okay. All right, we have two nominations. We have Robert Fulcher and Walter Cruz. Process, County Council, do we take the first one first or the second one first?
You're right. It's a nomination, so we need a second.
Okay, do we have a second for Bob Fulcher?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a first and second, so now we'll go ahead. Do we do the first one first or the second one on process?
The second.
Second one. All right. All those in favor of Robert Fulcher?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, excuse me, I didn't get.
Aye.
We have 4 ayes. Okay, so I'm going to stand by my particular appointment and say no. Although I do like Mr. Fulcher, I just feel that I like mine better. That's my prerogative. Okay, so we have Robert Fulcher as a second person on that on the Planning Commission, and the vote was 4-1. Okay? Supervisor Rotifer.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank everybody that did apply, because we did go out and quite, I don't want to say aggressively, but seriously search for candidates and request that people do apply. And it's really important that the public takes part in our governance. And I just want to thank, we had a lot of good qualified candidates, and I wanted to thank everybody that did apply.
Excuse me, any public comment? Seeing none. Item number 9.
Consideration of adopting a resolution supporting CalNet, Inc. efforts to expand broadband services to unserved and underserved areas of Tuolumne County.
Mr. Richardson.
Good morning, Daniel Richardson, Deputy County Administrator. I'm just here briefly to introduce Daryl Slocum, who's the Marketing Director of Central Sierra Connect. He'll describe a broadband grant opportunity that has been brought to our attention. The county has participated in this collaborative multi-county effort, this Central Sierra Connect, for several years, and this project is another example of the coordination work from this group. So, Daryl.
Thank you, Daniel, and good morning, Board. Pleasure to be here today, speaking to you once again about this particular topic. And just as a reminder, Central Sierra Connect is an ATCA program, and we are tasked with what we call bridging the digital divide, bringing more people to technology and bringing technology to people. And one of the ways we do that is by expanding broadband availability and connectivity. And I don't want to read the entire resolution, although it would be much more eloquent than I will be. It was crafted by my colleague Kathleen Half. But one of the components of the resolution is it talks about what I would call a horrendous rating of Tuolumne County as it compares to the other counties of California. I believe it says that we rank 48th in broadband connectivity. That's going to continue to be a problem for us, especially as the use of the internet continues to evolve. And it impacts all areas of our life, including one of the most prominent for our area is health and safety. We absolutely need more investment in broadband infrastructure. A major component of what we do at Central Sierra Connect is to support motivated internet service providers who are interested in applying for grant funding, specifically through the California Advanced Services Fund. Unfortunately, we have not been successful in motivating investment in our area. In fact, 2 years ago, when we had the last application period, we had no submissions at all. This year, I'm happy to report that we have a willing, motivated, and capable internet service provider by the name of Cal.net, which currently operates out of El Dorado County. They have been in business for some time. They are a reputable company. They are well-funded. Their technology is sound. And I'm also grateful to say that they are applying for projects in all 5 of the counties that Central Sierra Connect supports. The broadband funding from this particular program is not 100% funding. What it is it's an incentive to encourage investment in areas that have relatively low return, because it is a business investment and there is a return on investment required. Having said that, there's no financial gain for Cal.net, not even when the grant is awarded, because in essence it's a cost to them and they have to match it. They don't recognize any revenue until the project is up and running and they start signing customers. That's a significant thing to realize because they've already made an investment of thousands of dollars just in preparing the grant application. And one of their representatives, Ken Garnett, who's in the audience today, who's their technology officer, he's already spent over hundreds of hours on the project itself. We desperately need additional infrastructure investment. We need it in our uncovered and unserved areas, and that's what the CASF grant provides for. The grant funding cannot be used to service any areas that already have what is deemed adequate coverage. So the specifics of this application are for our unserved and underserved areas, and those are identified in the resolution as well. But it's, in essence, it's the upper 108 corridor, it's portions of Groveland, and the Pine Mountain Lake area. And as I think most of you know, those are some of our neediest areas. So we're here today to encourage your support, and hopefully you will sign this resolution supporting Cal.net. And as mentioned before, their CEO, John Lane, and their CTO, Ken Garnett, are both here today to answer any technical questions that you have about their application.
Any questions?
I'd like to hear from the public first, but I would like to add one thing. I met John Lane at a meeting in Reading that the Broadband Consortium was holding up there, Emerging Technologies, and his company has a track record of success. This is not their first rodeo, and so that's a big plus. We're not betting on somebody who hasn't been there, so I think that's a real plus for us.
Okay, any public comment? See, now bring it back to the board. I just want to make one comment, and looking at the areas, you did mention Groveland Big Oak Flat as an area that is really underserved, but we do have one other portion of the county that I think really needs to be looked at, and that's the Lake Don Pedro area. That's severely underserved, in my opinion. So maybe in your program you can...
Actually, I think I neglected mentioning that, and it may not be mentioned in the resolution, but I believe that is a component of their application.
Okay, all right, that would be great. Any other board comment?
I'd just like to thank you for all the efforts that I know there's a lot of people working on this, and it's really important. So I really appreciate
that. Thank you. And I appreciate, the support that we've received from the county and county staff. Daniel has been a member of our steering committee, and he provides a lot of service and conduit to you and to Mr. Pedro, and we appreciate that very much.
I'd just like to add to Evan's comment, because we all talk about the need for increased broadband infrastructure, and it impacts so many. It's not just the residents, but those folks that come here to vacation and want to spend their dollars here in the county. And so I really applaud the effort. I think it's exciting that you found a partner, and I'd be willing to make a motion when you're ready.
Okay, a question for council. Does this resolution have to be read? If it does, I'm going to ask somebody else to read it, because I'm slowly losing my voice, which I know will make some people happy.
I don't see any requirement that it has to be.
Okay. All right, then look for a motion from the board.
So I'd move to approve the resolution to show support to CASF for Cal.Net's efforts to bring high-speed internet to the unserved and underserved areas of Tuolumne County.
Second.
First and second, any public comment on the motion? Seeing none, call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Item 10.
Consideration of adopting a resolution continuing the local state of emergency as required by the California Emergency Services Act, Article 14, Section 8630C.
You again.
Hey, you guys are liking this every month. I know it. Good morning, Tracy Riggs, County Administrator's Office and OES Coordinator. This morning, we're once again before you looking to your board to review the need to renew the emergency proclamation that's been in place since February of last year. So as a brief update as to what we've been doing since the last month when we came before you, when we look at large systems, I've been communicating most times on a weekly basis, if not daily at times, with both TUD, Twain Harte, Groveland Community Services District, and Lake Don Pedro. TUD and Twain Harte are both feeling very confident starting out compared to where they were last year. They are still encouraging conservation to their customers. However, the reservoirs are at a much higher capacity this year than they were last year. PG&E is being an incredible partner again in what they're releasing and what they're holding back for hydropower. When it comes to Groveland Community Services District, they, as you know, we went through a large project with them over this last year. On February 23rd, John Sterling has indicated he's expecting their new treatment system to come online. He's very excited about that. And then Lake Don Pedro Community Services District is the largest system right now in which we have severe concerns, and we've come before you the last few months with those concerns. They are currently, Lake McClure, which is the reservoir that feeds that district, is at 586. It's above sea level, ASL. It is the largest reservoir that is at the lowest capacity in the state right now. So Pete Camp has been working very closely with the Merced Irrigation District, who is the one who manages that reservoir. And a letter has been sent out, and I know Daniel will speak more to this here coming up shortly, in which they're requesting to reduce the flows out of that reservoir from 180 to 200 CFS to 100 to 220 CFS daily. That will help to maintain at least the current level that's in there. And then your board, on the next item coming up, will be looking at supporting that letter that they've sent out. So in regards to Lake Don Pedro Community Services District, we did get Cal OES and some other state agencies went out there last Friday on site. Pete gave them a tour, and then there's several more phone calls we're following up this week, and I'm also working very closely with the Mariposa County CAO. Craig and I have a conference call with her this Thursday, and then I'm working with their OES as well, so that as we work on these contingency plans, the two counties are together and unified as we move forward. With the small districts, we did have a drought task force meeting last Wednesday. We continue to have good participation. So far, all of those small districts are not reporting any problems, but they are staying engaged with me, and they know how to get a hold of me any time or day if they need to. Curtailment notices were sent out that there's potential, and when we say potential, it's most likely going to happen, where that will affect the water they're able to hold and store. And it goes back to the pre-1914 senior water rights. So that could potentially have a negative effect on some of those small water companies, as some of them actually use the surface water that's coming through various waterways, and it would impact their ability to pull that water. And then when it comes to wells, we continue to meet either weekly or semi-weekly with a committee that has oversight of the well process. As we indicated in the letter that your board memo, we had 21 homes that we've referred to Tuolumne Utilities District looking for some form of permanent connection. That's not a fast process, but Cassie, who was with the State Water Board, is a great partner, and she's working with us closely. Then with ADCA, and I know Shelley Hans is here with the executive director for the agency. They are actually doing the work for those homes who have had their wells go dry and are seeking assistance. So with that being said, there have been 29 homes and 20 wells, and since then we did refer 2 more homes that 1 well supported. The wrinkle that has come up within the last couple of weeks is we had the director of recovery for Cal OES actually emailed and alerted us that his interpretation was that the California Disaster Assistance Act funding could not be used to support businesses, and they were determining that a rental, even if they received $1 throughout the whole year, was considered a business, and therefore they would be ineligible. County Council and I have been pushing back on that. I don't know, Sarah, if you'd like to update them on.
Well, I wish I had more to update the board on, but I did make several phone calls, and I'm sort of in that playing phone tag process with their chief counsel. But in looking at the regulations and in looking at the government code that implements the act, I don't see anything that strictly prohibits the funds being applied to a business like a rental, but we need clarification from their counsel. And so I've left her messages all day yesterday, even this morning, and as soon as I hear something, I'll immediately let you all know.
The good thing is Eric Lamoureux, who's the Inland Region Administrator for Cal OES, has been a great advocate and partner for Tuolumne County, and he has been on this from the very beginning. We called him directly. He was on the phone with the Drought Task Force last week and did let us know he feels that this will be resolved in a positive manner. Tulare County has several hundred rentals that this is affecting. So I think that the council's calls to their council is helping. The statement was made by the director of OES and was not a legal interpretation by their council. So I think they're looking into that better. And it sounds like that the end result will be that they're going to allow the service. But we do have 4 or 5 homes that have supported, or 4 or 5 wells that have supported a rental. And they have received services, as this was something that none of the program staff in Cal OES knew, or we knew as a group as we moved through this. So we did make a request that in the event that they determined that they are not eligible, would they cover the costs to the private nonprofit that has provided that service to those up until that point. And that sounded pretty positive as well when he said, I think it was Craig and I were on a phone call with Eric, who said that Charles, the director, didn't seem to think that would be a problem, but we're looking as to going forward and how will we provide services to those homes that are rentals that are on a well. And with that being said, I don't know if Shelley is here, if you have any questions for how they're handling it. What's happening, just for some more detail in case you receive any questions, is if there is one well that provides water to more than one home, whether it be a rental or maybe the family member that lives there, there's only one water tank that is placed at that well. And so they're most often they're 2,500-gallon tanks. It's the delivery of water that varies. So if there's more than one home, they may get a water delivery weekly rather than, say, monthly or semi-monthly. And that's the biggest variance there. The same size of tanks are being installed at each well site.
Carl.
Yeah, just a quick update from the GAC yesterday, the Government Affairs Council over at the Chamber. Lisa Westbrook from TUDs, and she's not here. She did relate that the snowpack actually in the specific areas that feed the TUD system is as high or higher than in terms of water content. That's from the readings that PG&E has done as it was last year. So not only are the reservoirs higher, but the snowpack is about the same. I just caution that this river of rain that's supposed to come in this weekend, they're talking, if I'm correct, on snow levels at the pass level and above that could actually decrease the snowpack because of the temperature of the precipitation that would be falling. So we're still in a fairly precarious position in terms of going into the summer, and I don't think we know what we're really going to be like until probably April-ish time frame. So I would support considering or adopting the resolution continuing the state of emergency. And that would be a motion at the appropriate time.
Ms. Riggs, the memo, board memo here mentions roughly 50 homes and a slightly smaller number of wells. But last report I heard, there were like 90 wells reported in trouble. So my question is, what's happening with the rest of those wells, and are we continuing our outreach to see if the problem persists or is getting worse?
So it's an excellent question. What we had said, there were 70 to 80 homes, and so what we're looking at are wells. There are some individuals we've gone out who have declined the service. They're paying to deepen their own well. Some have declined to actually be hooked up to Tuolumne Utilities District, and some, when we get out there, it's better that day, or maybe only a few has Rob determined that. I think I gave the example. You go out there, and it's when I water my lawns at the end of the day, my pump, I don't have enough water to take my bath at night. And so the recommendation at that point is we really need you to conserve. We're only allowing 50 gallons per day per person, and that was, again, working with environmental health and public health, Dr. Stolt. So we are still recommending a high level of conservation. If he goes out and determines that it appears as if the conservation measures aren't where they should be, then we make the recommendation, start conserving, and then he goes back out there to look at those. So some have declined the service, some have not, have determined that they're going to do something else and wait and see if it gets better.
So are we continuing our outreach, and do we see a continuing trend?
Yeah, well, again, good question. So we were just working with Shelley Hansen. I'd like her to explain to you what she's going to be doing with the outreach and who she's brought on board to help with that.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Shelley Hance, Executive Director. Regarding the outreach, we have just contracted with Daryl Slocum to do outreach. We met yesterday, the team, in regard to a number of areas that we want to do very rapidly with outreach. I wanted to also mention that we now are delivering water to 17 households. All of these folks are really conserving. We were actually surprised at how little water they are each using. So our community out there is really, that we are serving, is really trying to continue to conserve. And we really didn't know when we started delivering what that would look like. I want to thank you for your rapid insights in getting this started. We're only one of the rural counties. There just are less than a handful in California doing this, and the need is great everywhere. And so I really also want to thank Tracy and Craig. Tracy's leadership in getting the team together weekly, bi-weekly with TUD. The state is on the line, and County Council was incredible in rapidly getting the documents needed. And so the whole team is really working quickly. As an example, our contractor, Mankey Construction, received an application one day and was able to actually put the tank in the next day. Tracy's keeping very, very close records of exactly when the applications come in. The Rob is going out, assessing the homes immediately, and they're coming over to us, or they're going to TUD. So we're really wanting you to understand that we've got a good system in place here, and outreach is our next goal, as well as continuing to keep the community knowledgeable about this and keep the water delivery going.
I still not quite getting my question answered, and that is, do we see a continuing trend? Are we leveling off? Where are we on the direction of this thing? Are we seeing more people in trouble or not?
At this point, I believe we have a service. We've got everyone served or in a plan to be served by TUD. So I don't know that we'll be able to know the issues out there until we do our next role, which is very intensive outreach into the community, and then we'll come back and report to you what that looks like.
Real quickly, what we did notice when both Rob and I have done those community outreach where we both went on to My Mother Lode, and is you get a whole slew of intakes at that point. So it has been a few weeks since we've done that, and that's why we've been working with Shelley to start that. Just so you know, we also have, and I forgot to bring this up, we were contacted a few weeks ago by public broadcasting station in New York. They are actually here today. They are very curious on the impacts of the drought in California, and their target audience are teens. So what actually happened and fell together very nicely was we had last Wednesday had a intake come in with a home who needed their well and dry. They live in Tuolumne City. They actually have teens, so I contacted that homeowner and said, are you open to this? Would you allow them to come in and speak to your children and film? And the homeowner was more than happy to do that. So today, Keith Kaczynski with Channel 1 News from New York is over there. They were there, I believe, at 5:30 this morning so they could see the platform for the tank to go in. Then he was going to go in, speak with the children, film what they go through in the morning. Then he was actually going to Somerville Elementary to film some of those children, talk to them, back to the home to see the tank actually be installed, and then the water be delivered. So the other thing is if you remember last year in May, a whole team of us, including yourselves, we went out into the community and in community forums. And we'd like to do that again this year, sooner than later. So what Rob and I were hoping was that we could begin working with you to do those in March, and between March and April, get all of the supervisorial districts included in that. And we would bring the same team along, Tuolumne Utilities District, Rob, myself, Fire, and then have ATCA there as well. Provide information, answer questions, and again, another form of outreach so individuals know that this resource is available to them.
Have you talked to Tuolumne Utility District about the timing of doing that?
I was Tom is actually out of the town right now, but we've talked about them. He knew March, so I'm not sure if we'll have Tom in those or if he'll have his engineer. Eric Johnson has been incredible. So either of those individuals, I think, would. But yes, they've committed that they would be available for those.
I'm just wondering, while the timing's really good in March for the wells, I'm wondering if we may want to do a follow-up as we get into the summer with particularly TUD, but probably all the utility districts in terms of what it's looking like for conservation efforts being required in the summer.
Yeah, I would agree.
Craig?
I was just going to comment to Randy's question where Carl was going is people need to take this seriously. We just haven't had the rainfall. The snowpack is still marginal. This is how many years in a row now, so those, particularly those groundwater resources have been stressed. There hasn't been a lot of opportunity for recharge. People should not take it for granted. They ought to continue to conserve. If this does continue, I would anticipate we will have more wells having problems. And if they do, they should call and we could try to help.
Okay. Any other comment? Just short words. Thank you for all the effort. I mean, I know you think it's your job, but everybody out there that's been working on this has gone, I think, above beyond and spent a lot of time. Just hear a lot of positive comments about how Tuolumne County is helping. So another example of gold standard of service, and I guess that's just what we do. Okay, we have a first a motion and a second by Supervisor Royce. Any public comment on the motion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Passes 5-0 to continue the local state of emergency. Thank you. Item 11.
Consideration of approving correspondence to the California Natural Resources Agency and the Department of Water Resources concerning the release of water from Lake McClure.
Morning, Daniel Richardson, Deputy County Administrator. A couple weeks ago, I was out driving on a Saturday morning to pick up my son, who was with the Scouts camping at Lake McClure on the north side, and they were supposedly at at a cabin that had lakeside property. I had a hard time finding the lake. It is surprising how far down Lake McClure is. It's, I've driven by New Melones and Lake Don Pedro. Lake McClure takes the cake how far down it is. It was really very scary. It was great to hear that we are taking a letter, potential action today to encourage a reduction in the flows, the releases from Lake McClure, and which will help to benefit the Lake Don Pedro Community Services District and their efforts to provide water to their residents. In doing some research on this letter, I also found out that the release of water is less than beneficial to the fish as more warm water comes down. I found some evidence that was detrimental to the salmon as a result of this warmer water coming down. I did talk to the Merced Irrigation District, and a copy of their letter encouraging a change to the flow regime. So that is for your consideration. The letter, of course, talks about all the benefits of decreasing the flows so that we can actually make sure there's water for humans during the upcoming months. So, letter for your consideration.
Any questions?
Comment. In reading this, I know we've talked about asking for some type of action, and so I was wondering if we wanted to add a line just in the last paragraph before thanking you for your supporting this action and providing relief. Just prior to that, we look forward to your prompt response to MID and copy of that response to Tuolumne County.
Everybody okay with that? So
Yeah, I think we've talked in the past about some kind of like standard things that we want. We want what we want up front, but we always want to. We want to kind of force them to close the loop with us. So I support that.
Okay. Any public comment? Bring it back to the board.
I'd move to send the letter.
I'll second.
First
amended, right?
Amended letter.
As amended.
Okay, any public comment on the motion? Seeing none, bring it back to the board for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 0. Passes 5-0. Thank you. Break. Okay, we're going to take a 10-minute break. Thank you. Clerk, please read our next item.
This is consideration of accepting the Tuolumne County's 2015 Debts and Liabilities Status Report.
Who's going to start with this?
Good morning, Tracy Riggs, County Administrator's Office, and with me is
Debbie Batista, County Auditor Controller.
Okay, so this is the third time since I've been the County Administrator's Office that we have brought this presentation before you, and I know that they did this in the past before that. So mostly there is some new information in here, but most of it is an update to what you received last year. So there will be mostly Deb and myself speaking into this and presenting this, and then Craig as needed for things that I may forget as we move through it. So here we go. So each year we come before you, and the purpose of this presentation is to not only to update and educate the board, but the public on the status of our long-term liabilities, various management options that we can take to address those debts and liabilities, and then it will help us also to prepare for decision-making later as we move through each fiscal year. So today what you will learn about is some general background information. We go into workers' comp, our leave liability, debt, post-retirement medical, our PERS, and deferred maintenance. So we will begin. This is the same slide you saw last year, and it's just to kind of remind all of us what we've gone through in this last decade. So we talked about the two recessions that we've seen into the 2000. And then as well as a market collapse from 2000 to 2003 and again in 2008. We're just now seeing that start to build up after that period of time. We've had record state deficits in our budgets, and county government across the state was reset. It was a whole new way of doing business. And then the Jamestown Mine environmental settlement, the Jamestown landfill closure, and then the Law and Justice Center. And this is just a budget at a glance. So we look at the adopted budget in 2006 and 7 as opposed to budget in this most recently adopted budget in 14-15. And the most significant differences when you look at these is governmental funds or general funds. You see the big decrease there. Governmental is increased, but you need to remember that that does include the juvenile hall project. So that is a big project that's in there. And then the enterprise funds, in 06-07, we still had the hospital. So Tuolumne General Hospital was a significant portion of that enterprise fund. And also, Debbie reminded me earlier, in the general fund, it was a little higher at that point in 06-07 too, because of the amount of transfers that were going into the hospital to keep it going. And overall, internal service funds, you see, they've stayed almost par. I mean, they're almost within $30,000, so they continue to move forward there. Permanent positions. We are at the highest this year in 15 since 2011. Remember, again, 2008 is when the hospital closed, so we saw a significant reduction in the number of employees at that point. And as we talked about the county reset, that's part of that, and reduction of workforce across the state as a result of our budgets. Workers' compensation, this is from the actuarial from last year, and Debbie will give you an update.
I know that the board understands the difference between actuarials, which is kind of like estimates, and the reason why we have actuarials either every year, PERS, or every 2 years, workers' comp, post-retirement insurance, is because they're based upon assumptions, and those assumptions, A, can change, and when we get to PERS, we'll talk about all the changes in the PERS assumptions, or B, your universe, your population, your employees have changed, or, for example, with post-retirement insurance, when we closed the door in 2009, that would have changed that. So when we look at workers' comp, post-retirement insurance, we have to remember that these are actuarials, and if you compare the last couple of years of presentations, you'll see that there are some, in some cases, material changes, some to the good, post-retirement insurance, between Ann and HR and myself. This year was able to convince the actuarial that his estimate of how many employees will use post-retirement insurance was way too high based upon a 10-year history, and he changed that, and therefore we reduced our unfunded liability. When you look at debt, that's legal obligations. They're written in stone. We owe that money. When you look at actuarials, there are external environmental changes that could happen. There are changes that could happen with our staff. So every year and that we get a new actuarial, it's almost like starting from scratch and starting over again. The other thing that, and again, when we get into PERS, we'll talk about that. When we did the funding for the side fund this year, we went from an actuarial amount, we put the amount in stone and did the loan. Both of those are being reflected here, so we've kind of double counted because the actuarial for PERS is as of June 30th, 2013, and we still had the sign fund in 2013, but on December 1st, we funded the side fund, so it'll be gone, and next year when we get the actuarial for 16-17, those numbers will be changed. So just there is a difference between these first couple of liabilities we're talking about. They're based upon assumptions. They will change. The only thing that's written in stone is they're not accurate to the penny. When we get into the debt, those are legal obligations. They are written in stone. We owe that money. We will have to pay that money.
So on this slide here, what's been updated is the available funding. So we took the fund balance that was available as of the 7/1 of this year, and so that gives us what our surplus or deficit is, and meeting the confidence level and the ability to meet what the actuarial has said we need to have. We've been trying to meet the marginally acceptable, which is the saying we would need $8.5 million. We have 6.8 in there, so we need to make up the 1.7 million. And like Deb says, next year that number will be different. What we have been doing, all of us that work on the budgets and moving forward, is funding this internal service fund by increasing that fund balance by $250,000 a year. And we have been doing that successfully over these last few years. As long as we continue doing that, this would be that 70% acceptable amount on this slide right now would be met in approximately 7 years. And again, that could be a totally different number. It probably will be a different number when we get the next actuarial. After each of these slides, we talk about management options. How can we address the issue or the concern that we had? So this is pretty much what we had last year. So we talk about seeking legislative changes and work. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Can we go back to the last slide? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I just have a question. Because these things are moving targets, okay, do we have a sense, based on how the target has moved in the past, of whether we're catching up with that $250,000 a year or whether we keep chasing our tail?
We have a sense that we are catching up with it. And again, there's a lot of factors in there. Our worker comps claims have slowly gone down, and that's a real positive. The interest has actually gone up. That's a real positive. As we close out as they close out claims, that helps out. The reason why you want to do the actuarial every couple of years is because you really do want your universe or the claims to be real and not based upon last 5 years. But truthfully, all it takes is a couple really bad workers' comps claims, and these numbers will go the other way more negatively.
So back to the management options, we've also discussed with your board reinstating the risk management analyst, and then all the staff continue to work on. And when I say staff, there's a whole group of us that look at what Deb was talking about, the claims that are going in. You know, your human resources constantly monitor and work on that, looking at potential fraud, and then use of one-time dollars. So as we move forward, looking at those one-time dollar uses, this is another area in which we could apply that to meet that obligation. Then we get to leave liability. This one, as you can see, was growing in the past, and the reason, as Deb has shared multiple times, is furloughs. People were taking furloughs. They weren't taking their vacations, and so that caused an increase in the liability as individuals' leave accruals were just getting bigger. You see that decreasing over the last few years. So one of the things that we did discuss was there's a cap on accruals for any new employees who are coming in. There's also the furloughs have stopped, and we've had a lot of individuals several significant retirements that had large accruals that then were cashed out, so that reduces that liability. And then the management executive confidential are able to cash out those 200 hours each year, so that has helped to reduce that as well. But one of the areas that Deb reminded me today is we may see this increase when we bring this back to you next year as a result of the 7% COLA that employees received in exchange for taking on 6.25% of the PERS costs. So, again, this is another one of those that will change. And is there anything you wanted to add, Deb?
And again, this is a duh. Remember, this is as if every single county employee walked out the door June 30th, 2014. And employees use up their accruals during the year. You know, they may only earn 2 weeks vacation, but take 3 weeks vacation. You have the opposite. You have employees who earn 3 weeks vacation and take no time. So there's goes back and forth. But the significant changes will be that all of the salaries increase by 7%. That will affect the rates.
But if I heard you right, the actions that the board has taken over the last couple of years in terms of capping leave accruals and some of those other things are having a positive effect, right?
Absolutely. See, we said it together. Absolutely.
When we fund this during the budget process, we look at how much we anticipate paying out based on what the actual leave of our employees is versus what the earned accruals are, correct?
We use the what we're going to use now is we're going to use the leave liability actual amounts as of March 31st of every single year. Then we're going to determine how much money based upon what we think cash at our terminations. One of the real positive things of furloughs is employees had to tell us a year in advance that they were furloughing so that we would not affect their retirement with furlough. With that gone, we still have employees telling us that they're leaving. I have a list of employees that I know that are leaving in more than the next 12 months. We try to use those numbers to the best ability that we can. So we guesstimate how much money we need in vacations, cash outs, and termination pay. Then we take that total amount and we allocate it to all the departments at the same rate of their liability, and we want it to grow. What we're predicting at the end of the year, we will have $600,000, we hope, $600,000 going into next year, because you always do get surprised. You get somebody who comes in and you only need a couple, 3 or 4 management, executive top persons leaving, and it'll be hit really hard.
So if you look at what's actually being accrued for all of our employees a year, we're actually probably needing to fund more than that because of the past accruals that we could be cashing out.
And the idea is to build that fund up. I mean, ultimately, it would be nice to have that fund have enough money in it that you're not hitting the departments at the same level we're doing today.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I was just going to say, just so you know, when we begin drafting the recommended budget and then the adopted budget that your board takes action on, we work very closely with Deb and Human Resources. There's a whole group of us on each of these internal service funds. Usually what we're working on that Ann works on when she does those mandated cost allocations is her and Debbie have worked very closely in creating what those estimates might be to meet, like Deb said, explain some of those, and then we utilize those, and that's how those mandated costs, such as the leave liability, workers' compensation, that's how we arrive to those numbers that we then allocate to the departments during that budget process.
While you have this chart up, I just want to highlight something because it's easy to see with the visual representation you have there. 2008 till now, the trend is going in the right direction, and we've been going through extremely hard times. And if you look at a lot of these graphs, you have the same trends. And I think that is a credit to, the hard decisions our board has made, but also the foresight of our staff. And it wasn't easy to make those things happen, but I think this is a really good sign that we're doing the right things and we're on the right track.
So very quickly, management options, we've talked about. Your board's already taken action on capping what accruals are. We look at doing additional allocations to the departments to help fund this liability. And then again, another candidate for use of one-time funds. Okay, we're going to get into debt, and Deb is going to take this portion over.
Okay, we have, 2 different kinds of debt. Internal, that's where the board, have decided to borrow money from one trust fund to help in both of the cases, the general fund for the Law and Justice Center, or capital for the Law and Justice Center, and solid waste, to do internal borrowing where they pay either a fixed rate, which was the Law and Justice Center, or in solid waste, because it was truly a cash problem, they pay the pooled cash. And then we have external borrowing where we took, if you'll remember, you went from the CIA liability where they floated us a loan for a while, and then we went to the treasurer's pooled cash. That is an external loan. There's a legal document. It's the pooled cash. It's not any particular fund in the county or owned by the county. It is an investment that the treasurer has, just like the treasurer has with any corporation bonds or CDs or anything else that she invests in. And then the newest one that we just added was the safety side fund. So as of right now, those are our external and internal debts. What you have there is the annual payments by issue And the only thing that we have added, everything else has been there, is the side fund. We, based upon board action, 2 years ago, you paid off the Gibbs hangar and the armory. And then here's the extent of our ending principal balances for the next 7 years. Yeah. And again, the only thing that we added that would have been different from this year to last year was the side fund.
I just got to say, along the lines of what Evan was talking about, this is another really important graphic. Look at how many of those issues turned zeros, during this time frame, and there's others that have dropped off. Debbie mentioned two, but there's been others before that, and this makes me feel really, really good. The Jamestown mine has been our biggest, largest for years. Safety side fund necessarily needed to be done because we needed a solution, and PERS wasn't offering it. But all the other debts on this sheet will go away in the next few years, and that's really good. We've always kept it low, but it's really great when you can retire it.
And just another comment, the reason, we'll say it again, the reason why we did the side fund was then we drew a line in the sand that says this is the liability, because that liability was growing. We were not paying off what PERS was saying. The other thing that we did was that the interest rate that PERS was charging us was 7.5%, and now we're paying 4%.
Savings.
Yes. Post-retirement? Oh, the management options are basically the same that we've said before. We want to, at all costs, try not to issue new debt to the extent that we can, or if we can, we're going to want to bundle it so we only do it one time. We also want to look at refinancing when we can do that. Some of the debt has time frames that there will be a prepayment penalty if you pay them off, so you want to make sure that we're past that point in time. And then the other use of the one-time money is to pay down the debt if we can. Okay, the post-retirement insurance truly hasn't changed. There's two different pieces to the post-retirement insurance. There's the piece that goes to the executive confidential who have, if they have 20 years or more of service, then we would provide 100% of the employer-paid insurance. The door was closed to new employees as of June 30th, 2009. We kept this down. Right now, we have 81 active employees and retirees that were grandfathered in. And I'm sure I'm saying this to you, if you talk to your peers in other counties who offer the post-retirement insurance, in some of the counties, this is in the billions. So the positive is that we are not going to have to deal with this ongoing. Eventually, this will go away because all of us will be dead.
That's a positive note.
Hey, The other piece of the post-retirement insurance covers all our employees, and those would be the employees that want to use PERS as their health insurance. The contract with PERS requires that the employer pay a share of the health insurance, and the employer doesn't get an option in that. If you want to be in PERS health insurance, you have to pay it. The amount goes up every single year, and there used to be a cap on it. Now there is no longer a cap, and to kind of give you some history, when I first came here in 1990, the employer share was $16 a month, and it was $16 a month for multiple years. And then as health insurance rates went up, PERS changed it and put a cap of $240. Then they changed it and took the cap off completely. Right now, we have 156 retirees participating in this.
Debbie, what is the amount we're paying now?
It's on the next slide. Okay. Perfect intro. Thank you, Supervisor Gray. Right now it's $122 and $61. But that amount will go up. If you go look at last year's side, it was $119 and 50, low 50 or high 50s. It will go up every year. So if you look at the annual cost for the executive confidential side right now, we basically do what we call pay as you go. We pay the amounts every single month. We are putting aside some money. We do have some cash in that fund, and we are going to go out to a third party to hold on to that money, which will bring down this liability as soon as we do that. And if you compare this slide with last year, you will see that the rates, the unfunded amounts have gone down. So the annual cost, and again, we're looking at June 30th, 2014, was $346,000 for the executive confidential. And for all the employees, it was $121,000. Both those amounts are greater than they were in 13. However, the unfunded amount has gone down. It's 15.1 for the executive confidential, and it is $9 million for the all employees. In that fund, I think there's just about $3 million that wouldn't be reflected in any of those numbers. So some of the options that we have, the board has already done that. They've closed the post-retirement insurance to all executive confidential in 2009. You can seek legislation to make sure that the participation is optional and allow for us to have a monthly cap, and then also allow who's vested. Because let me give you some clues that could happen, just so you know everything, with our employees. We could have an employee who has not opted to be in this insurance for 5 years and decide in October of 2015 that it wants to opt in. We will start paying the 122 or the 61 for them. Okay, because every open enrollment, all our employees have the option to opt back in.
Okay.
Well, just under the management options too, under seek legislation to modify PIMCA, we checked, and that's not in our legislative platform, so that's something we should get into the legislative platform. And these are, some are either or, some are, actually, it'd be nice just to make it optional, period. Makes no sense that just by virtue of getting your insurance through PERS that you have to do this. That ought to be a choice of this board. And then if you're in it, then you want the ability to have caps, and you want the ability to set vesting criteria.
Okay, so we have some nodding of the heads here about the legislative platform.
Okay, probably not only ours, but many jurisdictions' biggest unfunded liability are their retirement liabilities. And for us, that's PERS. In March, actually, March 11th, if I remember right, of 2011, the county went into a two-tier bar for all new employees. They are now in what we call Tier 2 of PERS to help us with the PERS rates. Then from the state level, there were passages of AB 340 and AB 197 that put in new reform that went into effect January 2nd of 2013. And then the board and HR was very successful in bargaining with employees so that now all our employees, whether they're Tier 1, Tier 2, or Tier 3, pay a portion of their PERS. All Tier 1 employees pay 6 1/4, as does Tier 2. And then there are going to be, and this is where we're going to kind of talk about some of the different changes and the assumptions, and probably for the next couple years, every time you look at the new actuarial from PERS, the numbers are going to change. So PERS is going to do some actuarial assumptions in 2015. They did some in 2013. They changed the retirement rate for miscellaneous and safety. They brought them down to 59 and 54. What's going to happen, I think, in 15, if I'm correct, they're going to use new mortality rates that we're all living longer. And they're also changing some of the ways that they do the smoothing. In 2013, smoothing was done whether you had gains or losses on your investments. It was smooth over 30 years, and now they're only doing it for 5 years. In 2015-16, they're going to take the smoothing and bring it down to 20 years. All of that is going to affect our rates, and most of it in a materially negative way. But the good news is once we get through it, we really are going to be paying our liability at a rate to pay off our liability. So if you look at the next slide, it shows the 2004 rates that were projected using the old assumptions and not the new assumptions. In the 2015 new rates is showing all of these new assumptions that we talked about and what's going to happen with the rates. And you can see that our rates are going to go up for a while, and then hopefully they'll level out. And that's the whole plan of paying things off. What they have decided to do is that in the safety unit, they are going to take a portion of Tier 1 of the unfunded liability instead of using calculations based upon payroll, because what they are experiencing and exactly what we're experiencing is you're getting less and less people going into Tier 1. They're going into Tier 3 or Tier 2. As you hire new employees, they don't qualify for Tier 1. So all of most of the projections that PERS uses for the covered payroll to come up with their rates, people are not meeting. And so therefore they're taking a portion of the liability and they're fixing it and making us pay that 1/12. And for 15-16, we're going to pay approximately $620,000 of the fixed unfunded liability. You'll see our rates are going to go down, but you're going to pay that fixed amount in addition to the rates based upon payroll.
Just a presentation suggestion. These two slides would be really more useful to me anyway if the first one came up and the second one was overlaid on top of it using the same scales, because it takes a little bit more intellectual effort, at least on my challenged part, to kind of really make sense of what's happening over all the years. Just a suggestion.
Excellent suggestion.
We're all challenged, Carl.
So probably the next slide in numbers helps you out to show that. So what we're projecting based upon payroll is the fund payment. What we're showing is the fixed payment from PERS based upon the amount that they gave us. But I want to kind of cushion that a little bit. PERS gave us an amount based upon the side fund not being paid. So what we have done is ask PERS for a new actuarial for 15-16 because we did pay off the side fund, and we have taken their calculations, pulled out the side fund, used a little of the growth based upon the side fund for the 5-year projection, but we believe that those numbers that we're using are conservatively higher than what actual will happen because we're not factoring in any interest savings on the side fund. So when we get the real amounts and we have the next 5-year projection, you hopefully see that the fixed amounts will be a little less.
So if I'm reading this right, we're going to have a 4, 5, 6, 7-fold increase between now and 2020 in cost.
Well, yes.
Ouch. How are we going to pay for that?
Well, that's
CAO.
Well, we'll talk about that in the multi-year more, but
yes.
That's really important. But that's where this is complicated. You're talking about doing an overlay of those two charts. Well, go back to the other chart. No. You know, what's in common, you'll see, look at the blue and look at the red line in particular. We're seeing primarily the impact of the employee share, primarily. But then the red line is going up because all the costs for miscellaneous employees is being covered through rate. But the blue line looks like, hey, this is happy day, but the next chart is where they're making it up, is in fixed payment. If you were to convert that into a percentage of payroll, if you're staying with me, it's not just in percentage of payroll for safety, it's percentage of payroll plus, those payments, one for the side fund and then one for the fixed payment that Debbie, explained. So it's to really do apples to apples comparison, you'd almost have to convert these flat amounts on that chart, into percentage to get a real feel for what's going on.
And again, I mean, I don't want to be Susie Sunshine here, but some of the things that will be real positive about paying the fixed amount is that we will be paying it 1/12, 1/12, 1/12. It really isn't dependent on our payroll, and as Tier 1, we have less and less employees, your rate's not going to go through the ceiling. Also, because we are paying the unfunded amount earlier than activity would have us do, we will be earning interest on that, and so one hopes that some of those positives will negate some of the rates, hopefully, in the future, too. And reality is, we have to take our heads out of the sand. We have huge unfunded liabilities based upon our employees, and if we don't start putting the money aside, then like some other counties, which we'll name unmentionable, we will be insolvent, or we could, not us, but they can be insolvent. There are counties that the projections of their unfunded liability for pension will make them insolvent in the early 20s.
Yeah, and just to comment is, this is the first time, because we have been talking about this for many years, and it was frustrating. Things like the side fund, we weren't paying anything in principal. We were barely keeping up with the interest costs, let alone touch the principal. Yeah. And there was no mechanism to actually ever pay the PERS liability off. So you could have come into big lump sums of cash and put the money down, and every government within the pool would have benefited, not us. But this is actually a system that I applaud PERS because they're actually taking a sober view. They're changing their assumptions, setting rates, fixed payments in a way that will actually ultimately lead you to full funding of the liability. It's going to take a long time, and yeah, it's going to be expensive, but they're doing the right thing.
So are we?
Just very quickly, the last slide, this one is just giving you the payments by department, by issue, and then this one is just condensing it into by issue, so you get the full lump sum all in for each fiscal year.
And just in case Craig, Ann, and I get hit by a truck, basically there is a schedule out there that how we came up with how to charge the different departments is we use the number of employees as of December 10th, and based upon their salaries allocated the fixed amounts, and that'll stay because we will be losing employees coming and going. So all of the employees in those three departments in tier number 1 as of December 10th, that's how we came up with the rate and the percentages, and that will stay in stone until this is paid off. I like this slide. This one shows the different active employees and current retirees. And if you can see that in 2007, we had more active employees than we had retirees. In 2008, we're kind of leveling off, and then look what happens. In 2013, because remember, PERS is 2 years behind, we are almost 2 for 1. So we have more retirees than we have active people in the miscellaneous group. The miscellaneous group is the brown group. The safety group is just about even. But some of that has to do with the fact that this board was very active in adding deputy sheriffs to the sheriff. Plus, we added employees with AB 109. So in some of the cases, we're actually adding employees, and the universe is better.
Yeah, just so everybody understands, the employees that are retired are getting paid at their high pay scale, and a lot of the employees that are active are still moving up through the food chain, right?
Right. One of the questions I have for PERS is me. So, as most of you guys know, I was married before, and my husband passed away, and he was a member of PERS. And I get Michael's retirement check every month. So am I active and retired, or am I only active? And I think I'm only active.
You better be active, Debbie.
I'd say she's definitely active.
Okay. So here we're looking at the 2012 PERS liability. And again, remember when I said that PERS has changed some of the rules? The reason why we're showing you both 2012 and the next slide is 2013 is that they restated the 2012 liability using some of those new rules, using the rules about the different retirement ages, using the rules about the 5-year smoothing of gains and losses versus the 30. And I also think that when we get 14's actuarial, we'll also see a big jump when they use the new actuarial tables because we're all living longer. So we just wanted to show the difference between what happened with PERS. If somebody went back and looked at last year's presentation, they're going to say, wait a minute, 12 is different than what you showed in last year. And this is just really to show both of them in the new way that PERS is doing it.
What was the driver, Debbie, on the miscellaneous spiking so much?
The two things I just said is that they changed the retirement age because people are more retiring closer to the 59 than they were retiring. I think they were using 50. And the difference was the gains and losses being smoothed over 5 years versus being smoothed over 30 years.
Is that a function, because I didn't see the same kind of movement in safety, is that a function of there's just more people in miscellaneous?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And the other thing with the safety, remember the safety is in a pool, and it isn't just Tuolumne County, it's everybody in that pool. Okay, what we're showing here is the breakdown of the safety fund pension liability. And again, remember when we present this to you next year, they'll still have the pool in there, but in reality, the pool has been paid off. I mean, the side fund, I'm saying the pool. The side fund will be paid off. The blue portion is El Gano.
Yeah, it's no longer a PERS liability, but it's a debt.
Right. But again, it wasn't in stone, and it kept growing, and it would still keep growing if we kept doing the way we were going. Your turn.
Okay, and this is your management options slide again, which we speak to utilizing one-time dollars to help offset these liabilities. Utilizing the new PERS rates. And then we've talked about with your board in the past, another way that you could approach this is adding a percentage to what we already charge, and that could be used to fund these liabilities as well.
I just got to say I'm being heckled at the end of the dais here. No, it's a good question. And so at every slide you keep showing one-time money as a source to pay these things. It's just an option, and we have in years past used one-time money to pay some of these things.
I just asked how many times can we use one-time money?
But in recent years, we've used it primarily for capital.
Yeah, and we've got several capital projects that are significant.
And again, Craig said it, but I'm going to say it again. We do not want to use one-time money for safety, because safety, we're in a pool, and if we're in the pool, we don't necessarily benefit. Everybody else benefits. So if we're going to look at any PERS liability that we want to pay down, it would be the miscellaneous group. The other thing that has been talked about, we hope they don't go that way, to make it easier on PERS is to take all of, right now, if you are in a pool, you started out with less than 100 employees. Even if you reach greater, like we have, you reach greater than the 100, you don't come out of the pool. If you had greater than 100 employees, your contract stayed the same, and you have your own amounts, and you are looked at, your own fund, and you're looked at separately. What PERS is looking at to make it easier for them, whether they'll do it or not, it was in one of the conference calls that we had, is to look at miscellaneous and then care about how many employees you have and actually put pools together. That is probably not beneficial to us.
Okay, we're just about done here. The next one, this is an update to what we brought to you last year, and deferred maintenance. So when it comes to the pavement management, Bev Shane did give me an update on there, and I know that that's going to be coming to you sooner in greater detail. But as you know, we have 608 miles of paved and unpaved roads that her department maintains. And so we have an average county PCI, and I cannot pavement, what's that? Condition index. Of 41. And last year when we came in, I'm trying to remember, I think it was 43, 46, so 2 years ago. So unfunded backlog is almost 92 million. And based on a 20-year period, the current funding level of 1.2 million, if we sustain funding at that same level, we would go from 41 PCI to 19. And in order to maintain the current 41, we would need to increase that annual amount to 6.3 million. And in order to eliminate the unfunded backlog, we would need almost $12 million a year. And as you know, Bev is in the audience if you have specific questions about any of that.
Go ahead, Carl.
I just want to make a comment for the public's benefit. $92 million of unfunded backlog. I know the roads is a big issue with a lot of people, but that's almost 2 years of our general fund. And the general fund funds our number one priority, the sheriff's office, to a large extent. Our flexibility to deal with this problem is very limited, and I just wanted to make that comment.
And just add to it, I'm sure Bev will get to it when they do the presentation, is Tuolumne County is not alone. This is every jurisdiction in the state of California itself, and throughout the country.
Yes, it's a far-reaching problem, and we're not going to solve it all at the Tuolumne County level. We need some other assistance.
I just got to take a poke now while we're talking about it. So when you looked at how we're going to pay for this, folks have said, well, Pedro dollars in the past, or we got Mo money. Mm-hmm. I'm going to dub a new term, and that's Bev bucks.
Bev bucks. There you go. All right. Go after those bucks, Bev.
Take out your checkbook, Bev.
We don't have an update for buildings and grounds. As we talked about in here, the last survey was completed in 2004, and we've recommended, as I know Mo has as well, of completing another study so that you have a better information to delineate what needs to go where and when. And with that being said, that's the end of the presentation, and we're happy to answer any questions.
I was going to ask public, and then you can. Okay. Any questions for the public on this? Okay. Seeing none, Carl?
I just want to thank you for the presentation, with the exception of the one comment that I made. It's very, very useful information, presented very, very well. And certainly the county has a lot of challenges ahead of us. We've met a lot of challenges along the way, and we'll do our very best to meet the challenges going forward. But we are going to need some help from the state and the feds, particularly in the roads area.
Yes, and to the public, I think it's important that you look at these presentations on the web page. If you have questions, call Craig, Tracy, and Debbie, because they can give you the right answers. As a supervisor, sometimes all these things end up running together, and my answer is we just don't have enough money to do all the things everybody wants to do. So thanks for the presentation. And any other comment, Mr. Pedro?
I'll make a motion to approve the report.
Okay, go ahead.
Second.
We have a first and a second.
Okay. Well, one, I just want to add my
Randy
appreciation to Debbie and to Tracy. And not being said, a lot as Ann works really heavy and hard in the background on this too. And I think this is one of the best reports that we do. And again, not a lot of particularly rural communities do this kind of report. This is how you stay on top of it, track it, and we are taking actions, and you can see the benefit of those decisions, by the board, and how that's taking real effect.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor. Call for the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you very much. Passes 5-0. Next item.
12A is presentation and report on the January 29th through 30th, 2015 Board Planning Retreat.
Okay.
Mr. Pedro, you going to take this one?
Yeah, I'll lead off because I certainly encourage the board to dive in and add some highlights, things you think would be appropriate for the public to hear. But we thought both for the purpose of just transparency, but also there are things that came out of the retreat that could speak to the what your board may want done in our modified multi-year forecast, which is coming up. We thought we'd do a specific item just to do a flyover of the retreat that the board just had with your department heads last week. And I'll just outline what we had talked about and thought I'd use some of the summary charts from the end of the retreat. And again, the board could feel free to chime in on anything that they would like. I encourage you to do so. So let me just start saying that the retreat was held last Thursday and Friday. We had all the board members present, everyone from my office, county council, the deputy clerk, all department heads, elected and appointed, assistant department heads, were all present, and the retreat was facilitated by Bill Chiat with Alta Mesa Group. Just an outline of the retreat. It involved the first portion involved primarily the board with Mr. Chiat, reviewing the strengths and opportunities facing the Board of Supervisors, talking about things like the characteristics of what comprises an effective governing board. How does a board work together as one united body? Again, I'm just flying through this. There's a summary chart, some guiding principles that Bill offered the board. And again, as we talk about this, when I get done, please add in anything you'd like. But that was pretty much just a board segment to think about, what's involved being a member of the Board of Supervisors, where are we strong, where can we, do better, be more effective, and that was really the theme of that session, with the board. Lunchtime, we switched gears and then had a futures conversation talking about. Before we looked forward, we talked about what are we most proud of, what are some things that changes that have occurred that may influence what we do, what do we see the county look like in 2019. After that discussion, we had presentations from representatives of all the different departments, presented by department heads and some key managers, that talked about what some of the current issues were in their areas, what some of the emerging trends, were, and what some of the strategic needs are for or will be for the organization moving forward. And we took the better part of Thursday afternoon and Friday morning going through those presentations and conversations between the department heads and the board. And I know that was a part that the board really wanted to get to hear directly from the department heads and to have that dialogue, and I know that was well received. I don't believe we have it up on the website, but I'm going to make sure it does get up on the website. There's a report that was put together that had we call it an annual retreat report, which has the very information I was talking about: major issues, emerging trends, and strategic needs for every department, in the county. And I think that would be good for the public. I'm sure they'd find that interesting, to read that. So we'll make sure that gets put up onto the website. After that presentation, we didn't actually get to everything that we wanted to that afternoon, but Bill did take us through a conversation of things that the conversation up to that point that would affirm, things that we knew or thought were going to be happening in the future, what things might change, and so forth. And then that ultimately led on to a discussion about what some of the near-term priorities should be, for county government. And we went through a process of boiling down some of the biggest points from different work groups we had around the room. And then the board and department heads alike got their little ZOTS dots that could go up, and people were able to put dots on the items that they felt were most important from that discussion. And I do want to say, I thought about bringing all the flip charts from the entire 2-day event, but we'd have the walls of your chambers plastered, so not enough room. But what I thought I would do is, so the public can see it, is put some of the summary charts that Bill used at the end of the day, and maybe use that to just summarize the high points of the retreat. So, Bill, is this picking up? Is it picking up at all? Yeah. There we go. So Bill encouraged us all to remember, and this was both from the board session and with department heads, three key points that we need to keep in mind in what we do. We need to approach our work, with innocence, which, meant with new, unbiased, eyes. Look at things as objectively as we can, without bias. Look at things with innocence from all angles. Look at things with curiosity. Don't just accept the status quo. That we can be challenged to look at things differently and to look at different solutions. To be curious. There's lessons to be learned from history for sure, and you're a fool not to look at it. But to look at things with curiosity as you move forward. But in all things, both in what we do professionally, do things with compassion, and also as we work with each other, the public and each other, to do so with compassion. In the area of effective governance, again, I know this was something of heavy discussion with the board on day one, but Bill reminded all of us of these same points for effective governance, that we should think, well, this was particularly geared towards the board, but to think and act strategically. All of us need to do that, but to keep the ends in mind, not to focus so much on the means, but to focus on the ends. What is it we're trying to achieve? Focus on those goals, and then have your staff work on how we go about getting there. Remember the clear roles between policy and management, and to be as effective as we can. To exercise effective decision making, just one of the points we discussed. We do so to some extent now with your board goals and some other devices, but we try to track, set measurable goals if you can. Not everything's measurable, as Bill reminded us. That's a struggle in some areas of what we do. But where you can, to measure your effectiveness is to come up with measures where you can. This public value of all owners, I think what he was getting at here, we had a discussion, particularly thinking of the board, but this is true of staff as well. Yes, we all have constituents that we try to look after. This is more true of the board. You have your 5 districts and constituents that help you get into office, but the board serves as a trustee of everyone in Tuolumne County, whether you might agree with someone's perspective or whatnot. You're collectively trustees of the public at large. E pluribus unum, just encouraging the many working together as one, and that's very much what this board does. And I know when I talk about Tuolumne County in other, when I'm with my peers or whatever forum, I'm very proud of the fact that our board does not function in a way where everyone's serving in a parochial manner, just looking after one's district or whatnot. This board always has, and I believe always will, look at the public interest, as a whole, and do that very well. That we all should try to use our time wisely, focus on the things that will count the most, and focus our time as an important resource accordingly. And then to lastly pay attention to yourselves, meaning don't burn yourselves out where you can't be effective in doing all of these other things. So this was just a good framework of how we do what we do. I thought Bill did a much better job than what I just did, trying to go through that, and he did that in fairly lengthy times with the board and then with all the department heads collectively. And then up on the board, this is kind of scary. Now you know how county government really works. You can see the detail that goes into this. Very techy, high tech. But these were some of the different ideas that were put down from all the different groups that were working around the room, looking at strategic priorities over the next 17 months. And I'm reminding myself and the board and the public as well that we do 5-year planning here, but we do shorten that up into our annual board goals. And this very much is on my mind when we talk about 17 months, what's most considered highest priority strategic items. What I put on the dais was a breakdown of these items in groupings, those that had 12 to 17 dots, meaning the highest priorities according to those at the retreat, versus 6 to 11 dots versus 0 to 5 dots. If we look at the ones that were 12 to 17 dots, that included the review of our enterprise. That's this right here, this review of our enterprise systems, come up with a plan and target dates. What this is talking about, what the heck is an enterprise system? Those are our major information technology systems. And the two major ones, and there were others that were mentioned, but the two major ones were the property tax system. That definitely affects the assessor is it the auditor or the controller side of you? Maybe both. Auditor side, and then also the treasurer side. That's a system that's essential, to our property tax system, and it's going by the way of the dodo, and we need to find a replacement, as soon as possible for that. The other major enterprise system is what we still call the PeopleSoft system, even though Oracle bought up PeopleSoft, but that takes everything that is our finance system and payroll and our personnel system, purchasing, all of it's our major finance and personnel system also needs to be replaced.
There's a third one that was mentioned quite a bit, and that is our law and justice system, the communication between probation, sheriffs, and the DA's office.
Yeah, that's actually a fledgling system. What they want is a system. So, but no, that's an excellent point. That's why I'm glad please chime in. The next one in this category was under the category of people, which is our classification and compensation study, which we've agreed to perform. And this is where we look at all the job descriptions, essentially, of all of our employees and go out and do a compensation study, trying to see where do we fall as far as a total compensation relative to other governments that are of our same size or that we compete against for our workforce. The point of this is to retain the folks we have and be able to recruit and retain people in the future. So that was a high priority. Prioritize staff restoration within each work group. Right here is where that shows up, and that's also, by the way, a close cousin to replace key positions. We saw some cross-pollination in some of these, but we've talked about that. That's been one of our drivers as far as our priority-based budgeting system and direction your board has given in the last few years in our tight fiscal times. These are the positions that we really, for priority reasons, want to get restored or put into our organization, and departments were all about that as well. The National Disaster Resiliency Competition grant, a lot of dots in here. I don't know that I need to say a whole lot more about that other than it's a tremendous opportunity to bring our community together to help agree on a plan on things related to our forests. The driving factor behind this was the rim fire and the devastation that occurred with that. We want to be able to respond to that well and establish our community perhaps in new ways to where we will be more resilient in the future. This has a lot of potential, for a community that was recognized by all in the room, thus the high priority that was given. Also funding for roads. Even though there was a disclaimer, I think we had a loaded box up here, as I recall, that Mr. Chiat had mentioned, but we're still showing it as a high priority. I'll say this, it's consistent with your board's priorities, as stated before, but it is up there.
Nobody's taking the dots down.
No. I'll leave that alone. I'm just going to mention one other that I think if you combined it, I know it was a big item. It's in the next group of 6 to 11 dots, is this organizational development program, which include a system of internal training, mentoring, identifying the stars of our organization that we want to grow for the future. There's another one, it's a close cousin, maintaining our core brain power and to help in bringing in successors. These are really very complementary items. If you put that together, that would certainly be one of the highest priorities. But I'm not going to go through everything that's up here unless you'd like me to, but that gives you an idea of the kinds of things that we are looking at and where the priorities fell as far as the board and the department heads at that meeting.
I'd just like to point out for the public, and you kind of hit on it, Craig, but there is an awful lot of crossover in here. And so I want them to realize, if they get down to the 0 to 5 dots, it says rimfire recovery, salvage, and force policies. Right. That definitely, it just surfaced in a different way with the National Disaster Resiliency Grant. Same, a number of these items, just because they're 0 to 5 doesn't mean that this board is not, looking at completing an airport master plan, or that we're going to not be watching very closely the drought issues, and resolving some of those things.
I think the problem is we didn't have enough dots between us.
I just want to caution the public that there is a lot of crossover between the items.
Yes. Carl?
Yeah, I want to recognize the tremendous investment that our staff made in this day and a half meeting. I know it took some resources, but I, for one, this to me was the most valuable experience I've had as a supervisor in the 2 years that I've been here. And I appreciate the time investment that the staff made in it. I hope we do it every year. It's extremely valuable. There's probably a better time of year from the staff's perspective, and I'm certainly open to when that time might be. But this, for the public, this was a wonderful experience, and not just the interaction with the staff. That was good, too. That was certainly good, as I've already said. But I also want to thank my fellow supervisors, because the interaction that we had, especially the first half of the first day, was tremendous. And I continue to enjoy working with each and every one of you. But kudos to the staff. It was really a good effort, and I appreciate it.
Any other comment? I'd just like just a general comment is very rewarding to be able to get together with the staff and come to a conclusion that we're pretty much on the same page on a lot of the major things that we needed to get done, and that is very gratifying. And just to see the compassion, on that first chart there that our staff has, it's wonderful. And I see the compassion in my fellow supervisors. So it was a good couple days. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. And I would just like to add, it's a team effort, and we're so fortunate with the team that we have in Tuolumne County. And a theme that I heard reoccurring is opportunity. And as we're moving forward, it's a new day with a lot of opportunity, and it was just so rewarding to hear the input from staff, and I echo the comments that Supervisor Rotifer and Supervisor Gray both made.
Any other comment? And Mr. Pedro, you did do a really good job. We're going to have to send a note to Mr. Chiat to tell him that maybe you need to be on his team. So anyway, this is just for information, and again, thank everybody for all their hard work. Next item, please.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I know that we can't do the very next item in 20 minutes.
Okay.
And I hate taking things out of order, but what we could get accomplished would be at least the quarterly goal report before lunch.
Okay, which one do you want to do first? Goals?
Goals, we'll save the multi-year discussion.
Okay.
Or, actually, yeah, the modified forecast for after lunch.
All right. Would clerk please read item 14?
Consideration of approving the 2014 fourth quarterly Board of Supervisors goal report.
Okay, so Mr. Chairman, again, I will hit the high points of some of the items on your from your 2014 board goals for the fourth quarter. And again, you're free to ask me whatever questions you'd like, if any, that I don't hit that you'd like to discuss. And the first one isn't even on here, and I just wanted to acknowledge, the tremendous amount of time that has been taken with the drought. That certainly was not something that was anticipated, the depth and breadth of it. And the other, in the last quarter, it's made mention tangentially in some other items, but the National Disaster Resiliency Competition has taken a lot of time by a lot of folks. Good, important work, but not reflected, in this. Having said that, starting under your category of health, item D, something I think was very important. I know that your board had discussed it a lot, is the Medi-Cal reimbursement for inmates and pursuing that. And back in October, your board did designate social services to act on behalf of inmates for the purpose of applying for Medi-Cal for acute inpatient hospital services. Your internal departments, social services, probation, sheriff, entered into an MOU on how they're going to work together in making this work. And a system has been set up where reimbursement for hospital services will be directed to the county, essentially reimbursing for costs incurred by the county through the CFMG contract. That's the contractor for jail medical, which includes a cap for off-site inpatient hospital services. So that's something that your board wanted us to definitely get in the game on, and we have. Again, I'm taking a lot of liberty. I'm moving through. I'm flipping over to your fire and first responder system under safety. I just wanted to mark, I've seen this time frame move so many times, but I'm assured it's gonna happen this time. But our update of our dispatch system and our auto aid agreements should be accomplished by the end of March 2015. The work continues, and I definitely believe our top fire management staff are focused on this and trying to get it done. In the area of the insurance improvement strategic plan, as your board's familiar with, remember that we did bring a presentation on that, which came as a result of a meeting with all of your fire chiefs, insurance representatives, local government representatives. That as part of the presentation that we had before your board, we got the word out to the public to let us know if they're having problems with their insurance, and not just hearsay stuff, but we need details. And we created an information sheet for people to help facilitate getting that information. And since your board put that request out, we are definitely getting a response from the public. Not overwhelming, but much better than what we had. And we'll be compiling those soon to give to your board, and more importantly, get up to people like the State Insurance Commissioner's Office, where we hope they can put that to good use. One of the items that will be brought back to your board is an outline of the various actions that we can take to help in this area of insurance availability and affordability, and get rolling on that. I'll just, because I know it's near and dear to your board's heart, already reported it, but to say again, year-round funding for Jamestown is contained in the multi-year projections, multi-year forecast projections, even though the SAFER grant revenues are down. Now that creates a challenge, but the year's working really good and hear what the board wants. So that is in our multi-year. We'll just need to work to fully fund that. Under Category C, Natural and Cultural Resources, A and B, water plan engagement. I know the board's been very focused on the groundwater management, bills, and we've taken a position that while we want to be responsible stewards and engage in awareness of groundwater, our groundwater resources, and helping to manage where we can, we'd like to be able to do that locally without oversight and restrictions on the part of state government, and that is being tracked. And then in the area of our policy and goals, your Water Policy Advisory Subcommittee has been looking at its vision and mission, trying to come up with a common vision where we can establish a countywide water roadmap. Of course, the purpose of that is to have a consistent voice on paths that lead to mutually agreed upon solutions where various agencies can support each other in obtaining grant dollars. And I know Supervisor Rotifer is particularly interested in trying to tap into that water bond money amongst other sources. In the rimfire recovery, again, we could talk for days here because that's been a major item of interest to your board and activity. You do mention the National Disaster Resilience Competition, and just can't say enough of the potential that has, all the different letters, plans, actions that this board has taken, meetings that you've attended, things that you've spoken into. This may be one of the best opportunities that has come to this board in that area. And forest restoration, Stanislaus National Forest did hold their rimfire reforestation pre-scoping open houses in December, where the public can learn about and provide feedback, on that reforestation effort. Staff and board members were present, and that important plan is being monitored as it matures.
Yeah, pardon me for the interruption, Craig. I want to go back to the NDRC grant.
Sure.
Would it be useful, in your mind, to have a short presentation at an upcoming board meeting for the public on what that entails, where we're going with it and that?
Well, we're going to do one better because it is moving so fast. What will happen is a draft plan is being put together by the steering group, which is a lot of state representatives, input from federal, and also we have Marine, from my office trying to represent our interest. A draft plan, high level, is being put together, supposed to be completed the middle of this month. That will then be issued, and they're looking to hold a public hearing on March 2nd. Actually, I was going to report on this. It's a good time to do it. That public hearing is going to be held, I believe, on March 2nd. And right now we're looking at a larger room. We were first talking about your board chambers, but I suggested that it'll probably get blown out. And so we're looking at March 2nd at Sierra Bible Church, but there'll be formal announcements, on that coming up. So there'll be opportunity for public to hear updates, what the plan involves, and provide their input to it. That's the purpose of the public hearing meetings. And anyway, that's the first important step. So that's how we'll get that public involvement. It's an evening meeting.
Thank you.
Updated the general plan. You're going to talk all about it at 6 o'clock today, but as reported or stated before, that's one of the most important things this board does. You're fortunate to have Ms. Shane here to guide us through it, very experienced with it, and you'll hear plenty about that this evening, so I'll just stop right there. In the area of broadband, staff did attend the Central Sierra Connect meeting where succession planning was discussed for this broadband coordination organization. The funding for Central Sierra Connect is slated to run out this year, though I was told that there are efforts to try and get that funding extended, and that would be wonderful if we can get that. Until that happens, what I've asked to happen is that Mr. Cope and Mr. Richardson get together and look through the various plans and actions that we've discussed over these last few years, and to bring back to this board and the EDA board, Economic Development Board, a bulletized, prioritized list of actions that we should be focusing on so that we don't totally drop the ball, in this area and don't lose, steam in this important area. As you heard, we need to come a lot further than we are today. Under organizational stewardship, retention, succession planning, again, it's an ongoing thing, high priority at the retreat. Just pointing out that we were successful in recruiting a new ag commissioner and have some optimism on our public health officer replacement, as well as a couple of very high-profile positions. Your legislative platform was reviewed and approved, and that has been sent on to NACO, CSAC, RCRC, to our two senators, U.S. senators, and Congressman McClintock. Has also been sent to Senator Berryhill and to Assemblyman Bigelow's office. And we'll bring that back to update based on today, so we get that PEMCA stuff in there. And just to say, those are huge. Juvenile detention has come a long way, and what this predicted did happen in January. In fact, you were able to put that project out to bid, having tremendous bidder interest in that project, so hopefully we'll get really good bids and be able to award that project and break ground this spring. And then lastly, with the new jail, definitely focused on that. We did have a kickoff meeting with our new architectural firm, and just leave it that we are working diligently to secure some of that AB 900 funding, which really is critical to the success of that project, and doing so in a way that makes economic sense, for Tuolumne County government. And with that, I will end my report.
Any questions? Any questions from the public?
I move to accept the report.
Second. First and a second to accept the report. Any public comment on the motion? Seeing none, call for the vote. All those in question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Passes 5-0.
It's a rough day, huh?
Losing my voice. Okay. Do we have time for the next item? Reports?
Reports.
Mine's going to be relatively short, so I'm going to start with my report just because I can. We just had the new street lights put in Groveland, and they're really look great. The public is really happy. If you get a chance to go to Groveland, take a look at them. I think of only thing that we might need is a couple more, but they certainly look good. And want to thank staff and PG&E for the hard work. Okay, Carl, you want to go next?
Yeah, I've been busy, but I don't have anything to report.
Okay.
No report.
No report from Supervisor Royce. Supervisor Brennan?
Just real quickly, the Vision Sonora Committee meets on the fourth Thursday of the month at 9 a.m. at City Hall, and I have been attending those meetings, and they have two projects that they're currently looking at starting the process on, or that they advised to go to the City Council, and that is the Stockton Street West Gateway Corridor and the Linoburg Paseo. And if anyone is interested in participating in that or getting more information, please go to the City of Sonora website and click on Vision Sonora.
Thank you. Supervisor Hanvelt?
Busy schedule, attended a lot of things. I distributed the summary of the RCRC board meeting, so I think you've all seen that. I attended the Sierra Cascades Dialogue, which really didn't deal directly with our forest so much as it did with monitoring things, and a lot of other activities, but I'll leave it at that.
County Council.
Thank you. Last few weeks in our office, Chris Schmidt spent a great deal of time working on a restraining order matter that he prevailed on, and we actually were awarded attorney's fees. He has been doing a lot of research on an assessment issue related to Long Gulch, and he's been working on some behavioral health issues. Carlin and I both attended the Environmental Crimes Task Force, and she has spent a large amount of time working for TCTCA on the transit RFP process. Cody's keeping really busy with all of the contesteds. So far, he's had at least 2 a week. so keeping me busy. And then I've been doing a lot of work on the well assistance program, as you heard earlier today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pedro. All right. We'll go ahead and recess then until 1:30. Does that work out for everybody? See you then. Out there. All right, we'll call the February 3rd, 2015 Board of Supervisors meeting to order. Would the clerk please read
Do you want to go back to 13?
item 13?
Okay.
That's where we want to be, right?
This is consideration of approving direction on development of the modified fiscal year 2015-2016 through 2019-2020 multi-year budget forecast.
So, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, an integral part of your budget process includes the development of multi-year forecasts. And we previously presented to you what we call the baseline forecast, which just projects the same staffing, same programs at tomorrow's cost and tomorrow's revenues. And then, as part of your process, as we move towards budget, is the board's request the opportunity to direct changes to be made to that baseline forecast and come up with a modified forecast that reflects things that are of particular interest to the Board of Supervisors. We go ahead and incorporate those into the multi-year forecast and then return it to you for discussion. And then out of that will ultimately come direction on the preparation of the fiscal 15-16 budget. So before I have Tracy go through the slides, because we're not going to relive all the baseline presentation, but just to talk about some of the revenues and some of the expenses. On the revenues, these are things that you know. The two that really bothered me the most are both, unfortunately, in the road fund. One is secure rural schools, and we know that PILT has been approved for at least get us through one more year, but secure rural schools has not gone anywhere. And there's been promises that it would be moved through the House of Representatives early in the year. That just hasn't happened yet. We'll cross our fingers and toes and continue to send letters and seek support by our leaders in Washington, D.C. to get that through. But as of right now, secure rural schools has not moved. And that's a real concern. That's a large revenue source for road funds. And beyond that, there's a lot of good things we're able to use that money for to help with things like search and rescue, the fire safe type activities that happen, and other good projects in the forest. So it's a tremendously good program, but it'd be very bad if that doesn't. It'd be very bad if it doesn't go on. The other is the gas tax. We've been talking about that. It's not indexed to keep pace with the cost of funding our roads, but now we've got the double hit. It's great for the individual pocketbook that the price has gone down, and that's great when you fill up at the pump. It's not so good when your major revenue source for your road fund is gas tax related. I don't have numbers to give you right now, but I know you all saw the CSAC post where they're highlighting this. It's great to know that both our federal and state leaders are looking at some alternative to the traditional gas tax for funding roads. As we talked earlier, we were talking about the challenges we're facing with road maintenance. We need more, certainly not less, revenue, and it's going to take a different funding structure than what we have today. So I'm concerned about it enough to raise it again, and it's just really doubly bad to have both of these revenues focused in the road fund. And the backstop to the road fund is the general fund. In your expense areas, I'm not going to say a whole lot because that's a big part of Tracy's tuning up and updating our baseline model numbers, but the PERS, changes in PERS, both in the rates and the fixed payment that we talked about earlier, and also the debt service on the safety side fund. All good and necessary things, but it's adding significant additional costs to our forecast. Another area I just wanted to mention, and this is a good news thing, and that's the amount of transfer to our airport construction. We were talking about the CIP, for Columbia Airport. Millions of dollars of projects were laid out, and good chance we're going to get federal funding. Then we'll have a good chance of getting the federal share, but we're still going to come up with somewhere around $500,000 of local funding, general fund dollars, to capture that money. And if you recall, we only have $25,000 a year that's currently in the forecast, not budget, forecast per year from general fund to the airport construction fund. And just round numbers, we'd need to get up to the $500,000, we'd need about $100,000 a year in order over 5 years to meet that $500,000 need. That's one way to do it. The other would be looking for some of that sacred one-time money that we talked about. But that's one thing for airport construction. The other big bucket is the jail. I put that in terms of a commitment because I know that's how this board feels. We're pursuing, funding. Hopefully we will be successful in securing some of that AB 900 cash and do so in a way that it will reduce our local share of cost, which will relieve some of the burden on our finances here. And again, we're working on that diligently. Don't intend to talk a lot about that right now, but that's an area that we really need to focus on to secure the money for the jail and doing so, reduce our share of cost as much as possible. And then when to start, we don't have the funding in for operations. Even if we were to find one-time money for the jail itself or perhaps finance that with debt service payments, if this is a commitment on behalf of the board to move forward with the jail, we know we're going to have the increased operational cost, at least in the area of food and medical and incidental supplies. We won't know the staffing until we actually get the jail designed, and the sheriff and his staff can evaluate their staffing needs. The initial assumption was there was going to be no additional need, no need for additional staff, but until the jail's actually been designed, he won't really know that. But if it's a commitment and we're moving forward, then I think we ought to consider going ahead and putting some numbers in there in the long term to reflect that operational cost coming online. I think it's time to start showing that. And then the last area, and it's in the area of expense, and I won't talk a lot about it now. I imagine this is some of the stuff that you'll want to give direction to me on. We just talked about the retreat discussion, and there was a lot of things in there about IT systems. There was things in there about strategic restoration of positions, the class and comp, study, and organizational development and training were the big categories that I picked out of there that were high priorities of the board and departments. And you might want to give some thought as to what you'd want me to do or not do in response to the retreat and those high priorities. So with that as introduction, I have some revenue concerns, some priority expense things from that we had and we were discussing before the retreat, and then we have those new items from the retreat. And after hearing what Tracy has to say, then what kind of direction would you give us by way of building additional things into our what will be a modified forecast to come back to you before you give us direction on the 15-16 budget. So that's going to conclude my comments, and I'm going to kick the good news over to Tracy.
That's not fair. Okay, so what we've done with the slides that you have in your hand and that will be up on the screen here is we've taken a few of the slides from the presentation that we did on last month, and we've updated those. The reason for that is that the payments that you saw reflected in the debts and liabilities presentation in relation to the safety side fund, whether it be the fixed payment or the payment for the loan itself were not incorporated into the multi-year budget, and now they have been. So that's what these new corrected numbers are. So with that being said, the first slide here, this is what you saw the first presentation when we did the multi-year budget. So it shows you general fund gross shortfall in the first 2 years, in 16 and in 17 being, that $500,000, give or take a little, and then it tends to start, we start seeing a surplus there. You do continue to see the shortfall in both road fund and fire fund for a combined shortfall of the 500, 700, 300, and then we see again where we're back in the black for 19 and 20. So with this is where I then went in. This is what you saw in the presentation this morning, giving you the total safety payments by department and by issue. So you see what we have in 2014-15 that has not been included in the adopted budget, and we will address that during the mid-year budget process, is the $244,700. That will be addressed at mid-year, and that's for this fiscal year. But going forward, 16 through 20, all of those, the $1,073,000 across the board needed to be incorporated into your multi-year budget. And so the next slide has the prior slide's general fund shortfall, and we've then taken, because all of those payments would be a general fund obligation. And so now you see the shortfall moves in your first year of 2015-16 to $1.6 million, 1.7, and then it does 1.2, and then it does, you'll see where it starts to get a little bit better going forward from there. We continue to have the shortfall. Those are the same numbers that you saw last month, same numbers as the previous slide for both road and fire. And then you see the bottom combined shortfall of 1.6, the 2 million, the 1.4, almost 800,000, and then we go up to 700 where we're seeing it even out and gives you some more flexibility. Carl, you look like you have a question.
Well, I'm just, every time I see one of these charts, a new question pops up in my head. What is the road fund shortfall based on? I'm harking back to the slides that we just saw before lunch, which talked about our road deficit. What is that? How does that road fund shortfall relate to that deficit?
Are you talking about the original forecast?
I'm talking about the county's liabilities presentation, where we talked about a $91.8 million unfunded backlog.
Yeah,
Operations.
Yeah, it's there's no attempt to improve upon that.
Okay.
It's the same level, same staff, same level of effort as we have typically done, which is inadequate. So we're going to fall further behind.
Okay, so those red numbers up there on the road fund shortfall reflect us going from 41 to 19
over time.
Over time. Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
Right.
So if we don't fund that money, we get even farther behind faster.
Correct.
Okay.
And so it's really same. The only thing that's a little different is we do, I believe it's $250,000 a year for equipment, which is meager for what they need. So that's in there. Some of these the PERS changes to the extent it affected them, which actually was relief for miscellaneous employees, is in there. So it's really just same effort at tomorrow's cost, tomorrow's revenues, but keep in mind the revenue assumptions are that secure rural schools will pass. So if that didn't pass, that'd be about another $300,000 per year hit.
Evan.
Those numbers are relative to our current fiscal year budget, right? So if you look at 1920 road fund shortfalls, 1.128, that's 1.128 from now, not 1.128 from 1819, right?
It's for that individual year.
Yeah.
If our costs were to increase.
Right, but what I'm saying, so there's a 1.128.
That's not a total.
That's just from 1819? So if you went 1920 and you added all those up, that's our total shortfall from today until then?
Each year,
Well,
it's yearly.
It's the individual year. We wouldn't let that happen. We don't have unbalanced budgets.
You're saying the revenues are projected to be less.
Correct.
To fund it to the current level we are today.
Correct.
So it is relative to today.
Right.
Well, and the cost of doing business escalates every year, too.
Right. Right.
So to do the same level of effort
You're saying
is going to cost more money.
So we're assuming we're keeping the level the same through there. That's just the gap we have to fill to keep it at the same level.
And in the past several years, what we've had to do, to balance it, we're pretty pure about in the general fund where our greatest vulnerability is, and you got to protect your flexible money, is we're pretty rigid about not using one-time money to cover things. It's not so in road fund. Ideally, we should. But it's almost impossible to do. So if they have carryover balances, we will use it. Sometimes their maintenance costs are less. For example, it's good and it's bad, and it's more bad than good. But like we've had very little snow, so the snow plowing effort has been a whole lot less. They're getting a break right now because this is where fuel prices going down is a good thing. Will help us. They too will have vacancies. So we'll just look for all those kinds of things to manage it. Just in the general fund, I believe it's $750,000 in transfer annually from the general fund to road funds, something like that each year, with no change. It's kept static, $750,000 a year, and that's what. Yeah. So it's. But we always find we always have found a way to do it. But as these numbers grow, and especially if things like Secure Rural Schools doesn't pass, and that gas tax revenue indeed goes down, this is going to be a bigger challenge for us because we're going to have to. I know you're not going to want to decrease your effort in the roads. You're going to want to, if anything, do more, which is what Carl's getting at. But the only place you can really go to, is the general fund. I said Tracy was going to give all the good news in this presentation, didn't I?
So, we did tell you guys this last time as well, but the fire fund also contains $250,000 each year for equipment as well. Again, not enough of what they need to replace the engines and equipment that they need to replace, but there is something in each year of that budget. Each of these years stand alone, and like we've said every year, this is a forecast. It's not a budget.
Let me mention on fire fund too. Now, how we've been getting through in these years as well. Same thing. We're not as strict on the one-time money thing because at least it is contracted, service, there. What we usually get help with, and this is one of the good things about the CAL FIRE agreement, is they're only going to bill what they actually expend for the contract. We try to net fund it, anticipating that we're going to get something. We're going to pay less than what the contract could possibly allow.
They're not to exceed contracts?
It's a not to exceed contract, and we usually, come substantially less than that. Another thing about the fire seasons that we've had in recent years is the bad news is, they open up they go into fire season sooner. Our Amador stations then can close. As Amador stations, they close, we get billed less, and that saves money, on the contracts. That's usually, the good that happens, there. And to some extent, we'll send people out to support other fires, and there's reimbursement that comes in that helps, but that's a small amount.
On the fire fund, I know it's only $200,000, but what's the boon in 1920 that all of a sudden it goes from a growth curve to a decline? Do we know?
There is one year in which they built in, sometimes there's heavy equipment, and other lines there's where they have a vehicle. So when you see a variance there, it's because there was a vehicle placed in that year in addition to the heavy equipment.
Okay.
Okay, so this slide again incorporates the payments from the previous slide so that you can see where we would be when we lay in these costs that were not incorporated into the presentation that you received last month. This is what you saw the original slide last month when we gave you the original combined operating shortfall. And then these are the commitments that were not incorporated into each of those individual budgets. Then what I've done is taken the previous slide and now laid in these commitments that we have going forward. And it just kind of gives you something, a more accurate look at where might we be in these forecasts with those loan payments laid in. Loan payment and the fixed payment for the PERS. Anything else from you? 'Cause that's all the slides.
Go back to that slide. So really, even though some of them are red and in parentheses and some of them are blue, those are really additive, right? If we want to do all of that stuff, we're adding 1.5979 to 3.6, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And again, you can't absolutely count on it, but as we've discussed, we usually have about a 2.5-ish.
Yeah, I know.
$1 million carryover. And that's how we hope to be able to cover a lot of this stuff. But now it's going from having the discussion that it could happen on these big projects to where they're coming online, and that's why so we ought to treat these as commitments. Because now we've got these grants. There's an absolute need in the jail, and we got to get moving.
Before anybody that's watching this live gags themselves to death, we're working on reducing that 10.1 on the new jail, right?
Actually, look at it's a far right number. You're just picking one period of time, but it's about 15 million over a 4-year term, trying to get that reduced significantly.
Yes.
And that would take a lot of stress,
exactly.
off of this.
And we should have some news on that in the foreseeable future, right?
Yeah. And on other things like the Justice Center, the juvenile detention facility, that's a pretty good number. If I had to budget today, that's the number I would budget. That's primarily for equipment with some other testing costs. Everything else has been budgeted. That's the last piece that this board has to fund, to fully pay for the juvenile facility. And operations are incorporated, in the general fund numbers above. So that's all been pretty much paid for. But things like the Justice Center Drive and the Justice Center site and the road, to the jail, those are still estimates, and those are going to be refined. Hopefully there'll be some synergies between the court project, jail project, that road project where we can save money. So these are still very loose, numbers, but order of magnitude, they're good for planning. Jail does reflect the most recent numbers that we have, but we will have better numbers, I'm sure, in the next, say, another month or two. We'll have better numbers to work with. And jail operations, I already explained. That's before, when we just looked at the potential increase in occupants, inmates at the jail, and just do a straight line on our medical costs, food costs, and other incidental clothing costs and things like that. We were saying about $600,000 a year based on today's costs, but I did pump that up based on about $750,000 a year because costs are, going to increase, but there's no additional staffing in there yet. That's not a decision or a judgment. It's just until there's a design that predicates how much staff. We just can't predict, what additional staffing the sheriff may or may not need.
Carl.
Yeah, I just want to harken back to Craig's presentation right before lunch. Not in here is any additional investments that come out of any actions that we choose to take or not take as a result of our retreat. And I think that there are some, they're not in the order of maybe millions of dollars, but they could be significant in terms of priority restorations, technological modernization initiatives, and everything. I'd really like to see the staff try to put some structure to what it was that we talked about being useful to look at going forward. And I'd like that personally to be kind of incorporated either as an option or a thought or however you want to do it, Craig. But what does that mean for us in the near term in terms of budget? Because that exercise was wonderful, but it's only an exercise if we don't put something to it. And I'm really interested in seeing us make some investments in our staff and our capabilities to do our job better. And that is going to entail some upfront investment. I have no idea what the order of magnitude is, but I'd sure like to.
Along that same line, I would agree with Carl, but I think we want to take that little lesson that we did as far as the 17 months. You know, what can we actually achieve and make a difference if we add into some of those things, and you know, as far as picking them out, again, being realistic, you know, looking at the dollars that may possibly be there that you could maybe address one-time money to some of the IT issues. We know we're going to be doing, we've already obligated the class and comp study. So looking at that list in a realistic way and seeing if we can come up with something that will achieve some of the dots that we put on all those charts. Anybody else?
Did you count to 3?
Yeah. And what I would do, because I mentioned the 4 categories. I had IT, class comp, organization development training, strategic position restoration, or priority. However, this is the kind of thing I would want to go back, talk with the department heads,
right.
You know, get their input, and then come back with some form of
Pedro dollars.
Yeah. So see, we got Pedro dollar, Mo money, and Bev bucks.
Bev bucks. Yeah.
But
Tracy, you need to open up your checkbook too, there, lady.
T for trouble. No. But I know, and if we'd had like the retreat were 2 weeks ago, I probably could have been here with
Sure.
some numbers. But given it was just when it was, but that was my sense. Your board's going to want to incorporate that. Not, hey, that was a great exercise, like you said. We want to try to put feet to it.
Eventually.
Right. Eventually. Well, that's part of the art here. And again,
it doesn't happen overnight.
You guys know this, but saying for anyone watching or listening, is this is a forecast. This is not a budget. This paints a picture of challenge, but I'd rather deal with this challenge in this environment that we're in today compared to where we were in the pit of the Great Recession when things were going upside down and everything else. So this is opportunity. It's a challenge, and you know, look forward to working with department heads on things that came out of that retreat.
Do we need a motion on something, or do you have your direction?
Direction is to
everybody's shaking their head that the direction is pretty much.
Now, being realistic, my intent was to come back when we originally laid this out, come back at your meeting on the 17th. Being realistic, I know just on the jail alone, we have some important meetings coming up. We would benefit by giving it another cycle,
Sure.
another meeting cycle. We'll have better information on that. And that will give me more time to get with the department heads and do some thinking and crunching. So I'm thinking maybe coming back on the March 3rd, meeting.
Be fine, and if it didn't happen on the 3rd, the next meeting would work because we're early enough. I think that sooner the better, but obviously the better information that we would have, the better meeting we'd have.
You're giving me the freedom, is what I'm hearing, to make it as meaningful as possible.
Yep.
Okay.
Then we'll make it so.
Do we, any public comment from the public out there?
That's
Seeing
not
none?
Can I have one quick one?
Sure.
I don't want to talk about it in detail, but I just wanted to mention it. We forgot about it when we did the DOT exercise. Nobody mentioned it was EMD. And I know you've heard about it a lot before. We had just a quick discussion during the department head presentations. So just a plug for EMD, and I don't know what's going to happen with that. I know there's a lot of reasons why we're not doing it, but something to look at.
Okay. Any other comments? This is a report. We don't need any action. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. So will the clerk please read the next item?
We're going to 16A, I assume.
If that's the next one.
Okay. It is closed session, conference with labor negotiators, Craig Pedro and friend, Authority Government Code Section 549576, all bargaining units.
Okay. Any public comment on the closed session item? Okay. Seeing none. I don't know. Are we going to expect a report out of this? I don't believe so. No. All right. Thank you.